The Dexus Real Estate Partnership is Dexus's closed-ended investment fund series targeting Australian real estate opportunities. The success of DREP1 has enabled Dexus to establish DREP2, which is currently actively raising funds with around $470 million of commitments already secured ahead of its close later this year. Well, Jason Howes is a DREP fund manager of Dexus, and he joins us now. Jason, welcome.
Thank you, Andrew.
So tell us a little more about the fund series and its reason for being.
So this is our enhanced return opportunity style fund investment, which is targeting institutional and wholesale investors and aiming to deliver an enhanced return, a net IRR of 15% from investment in Australian property repositioning, development, special situations and alternative credit.
All right. Now, this is, it features sort of opportunistic investing. What does that actually mean, and what are those opportunities?
So at the heart of opportunistic investing is really dislocation or disruption in a market and taking advantage of that dislocation or disruption, which really means buying assets at a discount to their intrinsic current value. And then ideally, particularly in Dexus's view, also creating value in that asset during the period of ownership. So taking advantage of a pricing opportunity in the current market and then creating value in that asset during the ownership period.
Can you tell us where you're seeing those opportunities right now?
Sure. So if you think about what's occurred in the market over the last few years with the dramatic increase in interest rates, that's had a fundamental impact on real estate pricing. And in different parts of the market, that's had a greater impact than others. And so our job is to identify those pockets of dislocation to ensure that we can buy well. And indeed, in doing so, that implies a tremendous market coverage. So if we look at our previous fund, we looked at over 400 transactions before we invested in the 15 that we did for that fund. So that's a 2.5% execution rate. So you need a lot of scale in order to identify the discrete opportunities within that area of dislocation.
And just reiterate for us then those returns that you're targeting.
Yeah, so we're targeting a net IRR of 15%, and the first fund is absolutely on track to deliver that, and the first 3 exits that we've had indeed have delivered that at a gross asset level. Okay,
so given the success you've had with DREP1, how's 2 going?
It's not a surprise that in the current market, because the market recognises that investment vintage is a really powerful driver of investment performance. And if we look at the current market and the dislocation that we've seen, people recognise that opportunity in the current market. So it's not a surprise that we've had tremendous support from investors in our previous fund, re-upping into this fund. And I'm happy to say that the current fundraising has it as in a position where it's already larger than the previous fund, well on track to exceeding our target of $600 million.
Now, you spoke earlier there of that environment where interest rates were rising rapidly, the problems that presented, and obviously also that ongoing market volatility. What are you hearing from investors in terms of how they're actually trying to strategise and perhaps the opportunities being offered as a result?
Yeah, so when investors are allocating, they're looking at different markets, and then they're looking at different sectors, and they're looking at different opportunities. And so right now, Australia screens really, really well. And then within Australia, the opportunistic part of the market screens really, really well. And so within that, then investors are looking for managers who have a track record, which Dexus absolutely has in this space, and critically, who can access deals. And so we mentioned a few moments ago the scale that's required to originate, diligence and execute transactions in the market if you are to find that dislocation or that mispricing. And so managers really, they're screening country, they're screening strategy, and then they're screening manager. And the manager, they're looking for track record and they're looking for the ability to execute. And as I mentioned before, in this market, really delivering the returns that investors are looking for requires both that discount on acquisition but also creating value in the asset. And that relies on a really deep operating capability, and that's what we have at Dexus.
All right, so given that market dislocation you talk about there, does that mean there are plenty of deals to be had? How do you actually identify the ones that make sense?
Yeah, so we have a pipeline that frankly is the best that I've seen since the GFC. And I've been investing into distressed situations in Australia for many years. And the pipeline that's in front of us right now is the best I've seen since the years following the GFC. What we do is we identify or we plot the market by reference to I guess, a simple grid which takes us from situations from distress through to growth and opportunities throughout the capital stack. And we plot each sector depending on its growth, depending on the liquidity in that particular sector, with the aim of identifying specific parts of the market where there are motivated sellers, which gives us that opportunity to make a discount on the buy, and targeting sectors where Dexus has expertise, which gives us the ability to create value in the asset.
Can you be a little more specific of what you've invested in? So I gather it's been apartments, land, also an opportunity there of converting office buildings into student accommodation.
Yeah, so it's a great question. When you narrow all of what I've just said down, our focus is on two sectors in the Australian market, and that is firstly living and secondly logistics. And so you've picked up on living, which is a very, it's a key part of what we're investing in. And when we think about living, ultimately what we're looking to access is the supply constraint that's common across all parts of the living sector. And so we're looking at purpose-built student accommodation, seniors living, house and land, build-to-sell apartment buildings, all which are characterised by tight supply, and several of which offer us the opportunity to make money on the buy and create value in the asset. So you referenced that conversion asset. So we've purchased a vacant possession B grade, so lower grade office building in Brisbane, which was 27 stories high, which wasn't suitable for ongoing use as an office, but it was suitable for conversion to student accommodation, and that's indeed what we're doing. So we've bought really, really well because it was an empty old office, but we're converting it to what's arguably the most liquid part of the market right now, which is student accommodation. So we're buying well, we're creating value in the asset. Not many organisations can run that conversion, which sets us aside in the market.
So given that momentum you're seeing in that particular part of the market, you're looking for more opportunities there?
We love that space. That whole conversion play is something that Dexus is uniquely placed to execute on, given that operational capability. And so in terms of our outbound origination, that is a really key focus.